Hi, I'm Dr. Kory Wall, and this is...
I'm Sara.
And I'm from Cornerstone Family Chiropractic.
I'm from Winnipeg Nutrition.
We are shooting this video series today to educate families on how to keep their whole family healthy through the 5 essentials of health.
Yep.
And so we'll be looking at nutrition, chiropractic,
exercise, rest time,
mindset stuff, on all the parts in this video. The first essential we'll be speaking about is mindset. A lot of patients of mine, when they come in, they seem like they're very frustrated and they're all over the place and they're really discombobulated. Do you notice that with patients of yours?
Yeah.
And they really don't have a plan for keeping their lives on track.
They try, right? They try to get on track and then something knocks them off and they try again and they try again.
Yeah. And it's always good to get refocused, but what I find works for me in my personal life and with all my patients is on Google Calendars, right?
Yeah.
There is this system, and I create a victory plan, everything from me getting ready in the morning to scheduling my adjusting shift hours, to training my staff, to walking my dog and working out. I pre-plan everything, because if you don't have a plan, you're just setting yourself up for failure. That's what I find.
Absolutely. A schedule is so important for keeping you on track. You know where you need to be. You've got your goals in there. You've got your activities in there. Yeah.
And so with that in mind, it lets your brain rest, because it's always pre-programmed for you. It's somewhat robotic, but it's keeping you on track.
You don't have to think about it.
Exactly. And so if you have that planned out, even with kids' activities, swimming, rest, meditation time, meal prep, sleep time, all that stuff helps you as a parent and as an individual just keep your life planned. It makes it really stress-free.
It does.
And so that's the first thing I ask with people that are having brain fog, or difficulty concentrating, or difficulty controlling and actually remembering activities, and they're being really stressed out with their family. I lead them to that and I say, did you know that Google has this available?
And
I show them. It's free,
totally
there's
free.
no cost to it. And it's pretty amazing. You can program your life into that, and it's pretty easy too. And so that's what we really teach our patients, and Sara, with yours too, I'm sure you do this, with mindset, is just have a plan, because without a plan, you really are setting yourself up to really fail.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen. You're never prepared for anything. It's kind of a, whatever happens, happens, not as in taking control to create the life and the family that you want to create.
And you just kind of roll with it if it goes bad, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really important to that. That's my first tip for our patients. And I always tell my patients too that, why don't you give people the benefit of the doubt? And so best case scenario, right? And so when they come in frustrated and I say, hey, how are you doing? What was going on? A lot of people are like, oh, this happened in my life. And I ask them, like, how come you think that happened? Right? Do you ever do that?
Yep.
And then you'll get to really know a person's mindset. And they say, well, this is probably what had happened or what had went on.
Right.
And then I usually ask them a second question. I'll be like, do you think the person that did that to you did it to you on purpose?
Sure.
Right? And the most time is no.
Yeah.
And so to live a life like that, to think that everybody's attacking you or after you, it's really stressful.
Totally.
It's exhausting.
Yep.
And it'll really hurt you. And it'll hurt the way your body heals and functions on a daily basis too, because you're creating stress levels.
Yep.
Your cortisol will spike.
Totally. And you completely shut down your body's ability to heal.
Yeah. And so those are the two things. I tell people, get your life organized. And I indicate to you, I'm like, give people the benefit of the doubt. They're probably not after you. And they probably have no idea they've even hurt your feelings or affected you in any way. And so offense is always taken, it's never given, right? You always get offended by stuff, and we have to really learn to let a lot of stuff go. A lot of people live in the past, and I tell patients that, I'm like, you know what, give the person the benefit of the doubt. Just ask them what they meant when they said that, or what they were thinking when they did that to you, and you'll probably get a better perspective on what was actually going on in their life at that time, right?
And it just frees you up.
Yeah. And giving people the benefit of the doubt and actually forgiving them and moving on, it frees up your spirit and your soul, and it lets you heal a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so those are 2 tips we have for you today.
All right, the second thing that we're going to talk about today in keeping your family and your kids healthy is your nutrition. So there's 2 big things that Dr. Kory and I often talk with our patients about, and we talk with them about removing these certain foods from their diet.
Yeah, the sugars, right?
Sugar's the big one. Sugar's the first one.
Causes a lot of inflammation and swelling of joints, and affects your body. It actually shuts down your immune system.
Yep, absolutely. When it comes to kids, you're looking at attention disorders. You're looking at an inability to focus, right? So the less sugar you've got in your kids' diet, right, the better they're going to focus in school,
Mm-hmm.
right, the better they're going to focus at home, right, the better their immune system's going to function.
And if they're focusing better, their grades are naturally going to go up,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so that's a big thing with kids. And I ask parents, what do you feed them? And I know when I went to school, we had a lot of prepackaged things, right? Like pizza pops and Pop-Tarts and those types of things. And so if you can keep your kids away from those high sugars, those quick breaking down sugars, because it does affect how their brain functions on a daily basis. Maybe they have a crash, right?
Yeah, and it affects their immune system.
Yeah.
Right, especially when there's all sorts of bugs going through the school,
Mm-hmm.
right? The stronger that your immune system is, the better that you're feeding your kids, the better they're going to fight those bugs.
The better they fight the germs off,
Yeah.
right? And because it's not the actual viruses or bacteria that floats through schools that it makes people quote unquote sick or express health symptoms, I like to say, but it's your body's inability to fight it off, right?
Exactly.
And so sugar actually is a neurotoxin
Yep.
and it's a poison to your body,
Yep.
right?
And it decreases the immune system function.
Yeah, and so what the body actually does with sugar, if there's more than 2 teaspoons floating in the blood at one time, it'll store it as fat too. If your kids are starting to get obese or starting to get disease processes happening, it's because they're eating too much sugar and not enough fat, most likely.
Yeah.
Right? Because they need fat for their brain to function, heal, and for them to have energy, long sustaining energy throughout the day. And we're talking like healthy fats, not bad fats, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll cover that in another video series, but decreasing the sugars is really crucial in keeping your family super healthy.
Yeah. The second food that we always recommend people remove from their diets to create a better, healthier body is dairy, is your conventional dairy product, your cow milk, your cow cheeses, your cow yogurts.
And so that's a staple in most people's breakfasts, right?
It is.
And so what does that really do to the body when you consume that stuff?
There's 2 things that happen. First of all, I find a huge connection with dairy and digestive issues and sinus issues. Right? That's something that we see a lot of people for is IBS, IBD, Crohn's, chronic sinus or ear infections.
And that can get mistaken for probably allergies in children, hey, when they have sinus stuff?
Yeah.
And so that would lead to medications and missed school and all that kind of stuff?
Totally.
Okay.
Dairy is congesting to the system. So we find a huge shift in people's health when we remove that conventional dairy. Their gut starts to heal, they have less ear infections, less sinus infections, less allergies.
Okay. Because I've heard that there's antibiotics in dairy, conventional dairy, and there's hormones, right, that are in there, and so that would affect the body too, right?
Absolutely. Cows are naturally hormonal, right? It's milk from a cow meant for a baby cow.
Yep.
So when we take that in, we get those hormones,
Mm-hmm.
right? And people were not designed to break down animal hormones,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what we're also seeing is a huge shift in hormones in kids, right? We're seeing that girls are going through puberty earlier, right? And guys are going through it later, right? As we get older, we're talking about hormones involved in fertility and menopause. So dairy is a big one. It's a big player.
And so people that consume a lot of dairy, and you're talking mostly milk? Or are you talking cheeses?
Cheeses.
Okay. And so what would a good solution be if they're not going to be drinking milk? Because I know a lot of families probably have cereal or consume cereal like we did when I was young in the morning.
Yeah.
What would they do?
The great thing is there's a lot of really great alternatives for dairy, right? There's almond milk, coconut milk, cashew milk. There's all sorts of nut milks out there.
Okay.
They've got a ton of nutrients in them. They've almost got even more calcium in them than the cow products do. That's a big question I get is, Sarah, if I take that out, where's my calcium from?
Mm-hmm.
There's also nut milk yogurts, cashew milk yogurt, almond milk yogurt, right? There's not necessarily a whole lot for cheeses, right? But a lot of those staples you can swap out really easy.
Okay. And so dairy is easily replaceable in your diet. And so does it take a long time to get used to that? Like I know that you probably don't eat much dairy, but when you change it over, there's a transition period or no?
There is. Okay. Start with one product, right? If dairy's big for you, and this is oh my gosh, how do I get rid of that? Start slow, right? When you're finished the milk you're at, go grab a nut milk.
Okay.
Right? When you're done your yogurts, grab a better one, right? Start with one and go from there.
Okay. And so with children too, because I know that this is a huge concern, I get this question a lot, and there's a lot of talk of this in my clinic. There's a lot of nut allergies in school, so if you're going to have a nut milk, you're probably not highly advisable to drink that at school, probably before school. Right? Okay. Because I know that I have a lot of questions about that, and we're always concerned about allergies, but a lot of people have these allergies due to the fact that they're consuming stuff that's not good for them.
Sure,
correct?
their system doesn't work properly.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so the third thing that we want to talk with you guys today about in building a healthy family is chiropractic. So we've got Dr. Kory here today, obviously. But one of the big things is I see a lot of kids with chronic ear infections, chronic sinus infections. And one of the things is I always recommend to parents, you've got to get your kid adjusted, right? And there's a lot of confusion around getting your kids adjusted and why and when and how.
Okay.
Can you clear up a bit of that for us?
So we see a lot of kids in our practice, in our clinic here.
You do. Every time I come in, they're running all over the place.
Yeah, and it's really great.
Yes.
And so a firm belief of mine and what I've always learned through Maximize Living or through Max Living was that if you want to keep a culture or a community or a city healthy, you have to start with kids.
Sure.
I mean, if they learn healthy habits when they're young, they're more likely to continue on those healthy habits when they're an adult. And so an important thing is learning about the immune system. But on top of that, it's the nervous system that controls everything. So a big misunderstanding for parents is that we think because our kids don't feel that bad that they're healthy.
Right.
And so we adjust a lot.
Headaches.
Yeah, there's no
symptomology,
symptomology, so we're like, oh, they must be okay.
Right.
And so that's even in our healthcare system, that's very common, right? We're a very reactive type of culture. There's no proactive in getting any kind of tests through any kind of doctor because those tests only tell you that you have something when you already have it.
Right.
And so with chiropractic specifically, with Max Living Chiropractic and Take Care of Kids, we want to take care of these issues before they even become a problem. And so it's always assessing and evaluating the nervous system. So kids with ear infections per se, or sinus issues, or any kinds of eyes, ears, nose, throat issues, it can be a misaligned spinal bone in the top of the neck. And that's what we specifically assess children for, is to see where are these vertebrae shifted out of alignment. Can they be causing damaging pressure on the brain stem, spinal cord, and nerve roots to the point where they're getting symptoms? Like a symptom's a symptom regardless, whether it's a headache, a migraine, neck pain, sinus problems, right? Or eyes, ears, nose, throat conditions. What that tells chiropractors, myself included, is that the body isn't healing and functioning like God made it to heal and function. And so it should heal from everything, and it should function. It should operate a certain way. Like your child should not get reoccurring ear infections in one ear consistently. It should clear up, right, within reason, within some health products and some adjustments. It should clear up. Your kids have an immune system just like everyone else. So they shouldn't be catching colds chronically. They shouldn't have chronic ear infections or eyes, ears, nose, throat problems.
Because that's pointing to something that's not correct in their system.
Not correct in their system, and the important thing is not correct in the system that controls everything. When you really think about it, and it really boils down to one principle, is that all health and healing comes from above down and inside out. You can't pour something on your skin or shoot something in your body and expect to be healthier because of that. So the power that created your body fixes your body and runs your body, right? So all health and healing comes from above down, inside out. And so even like when a bone's broken, it fixes from the inside to the outside. When you cut your skin, it fixes from deep to superficial, right? And so all health and healing comes from inside the body. And so that's a big thing we promote in Max Living and in my office, is that we want our patients to really understand that health is inside your body, and to get you healthy again, or to make sure that your children are expressing all these symptoms, is to figure out the cause of the problems.
So what I'm understanding is it's not necessarily about a pain in the body or a symptom in the body. It's kind of similar to, right, we go for yearly dental checkups, right? We go for yearly blood work, right? So you got to have your spine checked on a regular basis. That way you're preventing problems before they even start.
Absolutely, Sarah. And so that's what we look for, is the subluxations in your spine, the misalignments in your spine, to help promote healthy healing. We remove the interference that would be blocking power from your brain to your body. And that's the easiest way I can explain chiropractic to parents, is it's based on your body healing and operating properly. It actually has nothing to do with headaches. It has nothing to do with back pain or any type of pain syndromes. But we commonly see parents, patients come into our office when we're the last resort, when the medication stops working, or when they have the medical community has no more answers, and they're like, well, we're at our last leg, we're frustrated, we don't know what else to do. And it's a really simple fix. And the problem is that until patients come in here, they rarely have their nervous system assessed and evaluated. And so not just the reflex tests, right, or not just an MRI scan, but let's see how your system does under stress. Let's see what your posture is like, your balance, your flexibility. Let's take some x-rays if needed, right, and see the alignment of your spinal bones. Is there any arthritis? And there's any damage? Is there any ligament laxity or ligament damage? How do we reshape the spine to allow the brain, brainstem, spinal cord, nerve roots to heal your body? Because we know that the structure of your spine determines the function of your nervous system. And that function of your nervous system always determines how healthy you are.
The health of the body.
Yeah.
So answer me one more question here. For the parents that are going, what is it like to get my kid adjusted? Right? What's involved in that?
Yeah.
Right? Because you see everything from like newborns, right, to massive, huge bodybuilders.
Yep.
So is it rough on a little kid to get adjusted? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we use very gentle techniques. Adjusting a bodybuilder, right, or an adult, a full-grown adult, versus a little tiny newborn is very different.
There's very different. Like a massage.
Yeah, there's very different techniques, and the actual pressure that we would use, I would use my pinky fingers, enough to just dimple or put enough pressure on a tomato to see if it's ripe. Because the bones are so tiny, right, and they move really lightly.
Right.
We've studied this for a long time, and we know that the spine is extremely important in protecting the nervous system. So we want to use a light force just to shift the bone to relieve pressure off the brainstem. And so we've had infants with anything from colic to sleeping difficulties to just not being able to digest food properly. And once I adjust them on the table, they do really, really well. The fourth thing we're going to talk about is exercise. It's so crucially important for children to exercise.
Totally.
And so I know when I was a child, that's all we did. And we had that word, we played, right? We'd go call on our friends, you want to go out and play. And it involved anything from riding a bike to like going on my dirt bike, playing street hockey, and playing street hockey all year round. Like in the winter when it was minus 30. And then when it was plus 30, we'd be playing street hockey no matter what.
Rollerblading, going to the park.
Yeah, all those things are so important for your children, right? Because it activates their nervous system, it activates their brain, it actually affects internal organ systems, right?
Totally, absolutely. When you move your body, right, your organs start to move and they start to fire up and they start to work better for you.
Again, it can actually activate your adrenals and your cortisol levels and your thyroid.
Movements for kids.
Yeah, so it's crucially important for kids to exercise. And we're not talking about putting them in swimming lessons all the time or softball or baseball or football. We're talking about like kicking them outside of the house, right? Like
it doesn't walk as a family.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if they want to use their tablet or your cell phone that day or do whatever, because I know that in my office, I notice a lot of kids have access to cell phones and tablets now and portable devices that we never had access to as kids, right? And so it's causing a lot of issues, not only in terms of their spine and how they feel, but it's actually causing them to be inactive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right? Which affects energy, which affects thyroid, which affects digestion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even know that I heard a recent story of a patient of mine where her son, I thought this was great because her son went to gym class and the gym teacher or phys ed teacher made them to a medicine ball workout. Okay. And I thought that was great. That's cool. Participating in CrossFit myself, my brother owns a gym, so I do a lot of exercise. Okay. And it's something that's really important to myself and my brother and my family, is because keeping these kids active, it's very important, right? Because it really affects their health on a big scale. And so this patient told me that her son was really sore, and I was like, well, that's good because that demonstrates hard work, right? It demonstrates so many things being active. We don't need to have someone be in first place for something, but just getting outside, moving. Movement is key to life in all aspects, so exercise is crucially important for your children. Go ride a bike with them, do anything, but don't sit in front of the TV. Do not give them access to tons of time on tablets or cell phones. You know, they don't really need that stuff. It actually melts brain tissue. That constant bombardment of glowing light is not good for the receptors, the nervous system, and for your body. Oh yeah. So it'll affect everything from hormones and neurotransmitters. So we need to actually have our kids be outside.
And I think that goes back to the first essential that we talked about, our mindset and your victory plan, right? Schedule it in, right? We're not talking about activity as in, 8 days a week you've got to be in some kind of sport. We're talking about movement, right? Schedule in skating time with your family, right? Schedule in a walk after supper, right? Schedule a Saturday afternoon where you're at the Forks and you're snowshoeing around.
Yeah.
Make it fun.
Like put in family time. Set in your victory plan. This is family day. We do something this night or this day on the weekend for these 3 or 4 hours where it involves exercise or some sort of activity. And we're not talking about like they have to be pouring buckets of sweat,
right?
But they should be moving, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Moving.
that makes sense.
Yeah. The fourth essential that we want to talk about today is toxic interference. So that's a pretty big kind of sounding name, but what it comes down to is the exposure that a body has to toxins.
It's a huge category.
It really is.
There's so many different areas of our lives that we're exposed to toxic burdens and overloads, right?
And two of the most common ones would be in our home cleaning products.
Yes.
And in our personal care products.
Absolutely.
Because they're on us, they're in us, and they're in our space.
And we absorb them.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
And so what's a good tip for people that are looking to minimize toxins in their household? What would you do?
Swap out your personal care products first. Right? Take a look at the shampoo you're using, the conditioner, the lotion. Right? That's being applied directly to us, right? What deodorant are you using?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And can you start swapping those out one by one? Right? Look for products that you know what's in them, that you know what they are.
Okay.
Is a big one.
Because I've heard commonly, and from what I've been told, is that especially when you're showering, it opens up your pores and you're likely to absorb that stuff.
All
and
that steam.
Yeah, and it opens up your system to absorb stuff more readily.
Yes.
And so if the chemicals have a large half-life, it could take years to get these chemicals out of your body, and that could really affect a lot of things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what?
Toxins that end up in our system start affecting our liver. They clog up the liver, and then your liver is your detox organ. So when the liver shuts down, digestion starts to shut down.
Okay.
So IBS, IBD, bloating, constipation, diarrhea.
Okay.
Right? When the liver shuts down, your hormone system shuts down.
Okay.
Because your liver is what fires up your adrenal hormones, your thyroid hormones.
Interesting.
So all that can go back to liver function. Right? A lot of the toxins that we're exposed to actually go directly to the brain.
Okay.
So you're talking, right, little kids in the home, right, and you've got toxins in the home and toxins in the food, right, and now you've got toxins going straight to the brain, right, and you've got ADD, ADHD, you've got inability to focus or concentrate.
So the toxins can actually affect brain function and probably sleep patterns too.
Absolutely.
And so your child could be very tired, not even performing well in school, and they could be classified or maybe even misdiagnosed. Heaven forbids, but they could be misdiagnosed with something and be forced to take some sort of medication and not even have a true diagnosis of, so let's say ADHD or anything else happening where they have a concentration difficulty because of a toxin burden.
Totally.
So it's very important, what you're saying is very important to clear those out, to give your children, your family the best chance to be healthy without bombarding their nervous system and their organ systems, really.
Oh, yeah.
So that's super concerning.
Yeah, it is.
So when you're looking for care products, would you look for something that has the least amount of stuff in it, per se, like least amount of ingredients in it?
Yes.
Or what would you look for?
I would look for, when you turn over the back of a bottle, right, do you know what the ingredients are? Can you pronounce it? Can you say it?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, that'd be a good rule of thumb. If you can't pronounce what's in there, you probably shouldn't be using it, right? It should say like coconut oil.
Yes.
Or like apple, right? Like something that's common.
Yes.
And natural.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
And so what else?
Well, a lot of people, when you approach this, they'll go, oh my goodness, those products are so expensive.
Yes.
So let's address that for a minute. And absolutely, right, the startup of some of those things can be a little bit pricier. But overall, right, most people that clean their homes with non-toxic products spend $200 a year on cleaning products.
What would be a good tip?
A good tip for cleaning products?
Yeah, like I know that I use vinegar and lemons and limes and baking soda commonly.
Exactly.
But what else would we use? Like tea tree oil or some oils or
clove essential oil would be another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that'd be a good tip for parents just looking to start this way.
Yeah.
And how about because a lot of people ask me about bleach.
Yes.
And I just don't use it.
No.
So that's a simple solution. I just say I just don't use it, right?
Yes.
But I know parents, when kids are getting down and dirty, when they're playing outside, like we're advising in exercise, that you got to clean their clothes somehow, right?
Totally.
So what would be a good substitute for bleach, or do you have even a recommendation for that?
I don't always you'll find a substitute for bleach.
Okay.
Right? It goes back to soap and water.
Okay.
It's really what it goes back to.
You're saying elbow grease.
Yes.
Okay.
It really does.
Okay.
Right? Your natural antibacterial products, right?
Okay.
Like we had mentioned, like lemon, orange, clove, tea tree oil.
Okay.
Right? Most health food stores are full of products very similar to that.
Okay. So cleaning products, that can be a huge thing. Personal products and then cleaning products in the home.
Absolutely. Those are two of the biggest.
Two of the biggest things. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other factors, because I know patients commonly ask, well, what happens to me when I go to work and X, Y, Z? And I say, well, we have to do the best we can because we spend the most time in our own homes and controlling our own environment.
Yes.
Because even when you go to like sanitize your house, I know people that do this, and I'm like, that's great, but when Dirty Dr. Kory comes in, right, I don't use a lot of those sanitation products, then the bacteria covers your house anyways.
Sure.
And we need healthy bacteria to actually stay healthy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your immune system and your digestive system is built on good and bad.
Yeah.
Right? You want a great balance of both, but absolutely you nailed it with you need that bacteria because that's what fires up your immune system.
And it makes it heal your body and it allows your body to function properly.
Yeah,
and we're cutting out the bacteria, then it affects everything from your immune system to your brain activity, like everything.
Oh man, yeah.
So we want to make sure the products that we're using on our skin and on our body and in our home, that we probably could eat it. If you could eat it, it would be safe, right? And there's a lot of companies that promote that you can eat their products. They don't taste great, but they wouldn't cause you to have what they call poison control.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's a very important rule of thumb, right? If it's edible, then you probably can clean with it.
Yep, absolutely.
Right?
And you don't mind eating off the counter when it's been cleaned with it.
Absolutely, right? I get that too.
So if you're looking for some of those products, let us know. We've got lists. We can send you home with that info for sure.
Okay.
I'm Sara Siedleski from Winnipeg Nutrition.
And I'm Dr. Kory Wall from Cornerstone Family Chiropractic.
Thanks so much for joining us. We've been talking about family health. If you've got more questions for us, if you're not sure about something, please give us a call, send us an email. We're so happy to help in any way that we can.
Absolutely. So if you want to just email the links below or call the numbers below, we'd be glad to help with any questions you have. Have a blessed day.